It's exactly 5 o'clock here on radio. 107.1 FM. Talking about Omega.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're waiting for a couple more people to join, and we're going to begin by 5:10. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in. We're going to be officially starting in the next 5 minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar titled The Social Engineering Secrets, the Tools Hackers Use to Manipulate You. My name is Abdusalam, and I'll be your host for today's session. We're thrilled to have you with us. So whether you're joining us live or you're watching the recording at a later time, today our goal is simple: to give you a clear understanding of how hackers exploit human psychology to trick people into compromising either their personal and also their professional security. So before we dive in, I would like to quickly or briefly introduce our esteemed speakers. Now, the first speaker that I would like to introduce is our visionary and CEO, Mr. Moyosore Kukoyi. He's a renowned cybersecurity consultant and also educator with vast experience in digital security, cyber awareness, and also workforce development. He has trained hundreds of cybersecurity professionals and also continues to promote cybersecurity best practices globally. And the next speaker I'd like to introduce is myself, Mr. Ajaytumobi Abdusalam. I'm a cybersecurity analyst with deep insights into how cyber criminals operate and also how businesses can best strengthen their security defenses. Lastly, we have Mr. John Akirili, an ethical hacker and also an experienced penetration tester and cybersecurity expert. Mr. John specializes in exposing security weaknesses before hackers are able to do so. Over the next 2 hours, we have a packed agenda that will walk you through several key areas. First of all, we're going to start by setting the stage by discussing the fundamentals of social engineering and what it is, why it works, and why it is one of the most dangerous methods hackers use today, right? So after we've done that, the next thing we're going to be looking at doing is to dive into the tools and the tactics that hackers use, real world hackers use. And that's where our live demonstration is going to come in. So in today's session, we're also going to be showing you a live demonstration of how a phishing attempt works. Now, I understand at this point in time, you don't know what phishing is. That's not a problem. We're going to solve all of that today and explain to you what that is and how to spot these kinds of attack. So you will see a real-time phishing simulation to illustrate just how convincing these scams can be. And finally, we're going to wrap up with actionable strategies and tips for recognizing and also resisting these manipulative tactics. We'll ensure that we leave this session with practical knowledge that you can apply, not just theoretically, but immediately in your real world environment. We'll also be interacting with you throughout this session. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat box as we go along. We'll address as many questions as we can possibly possibly during the Q&A session at the end of the program. So please, if you have questions or comments, you feel free to drop them through the chat box throughout the program. And then so at the Q&A session, we'll address all of those questions one after the other. Now, let's talk about why we're here today. In recent years, the method of cyber attack has evolved significantly. Traditionally, we might have thought of hackers as faceless criminals that break into computer systems through brute force or through the use of sophisticated software exploits. But you see now, in these modern times, the idea that we have of hackers has been constantly evolving. These hackers aren't just static. They are getting smarter. They are evolving. However, one of the most effective and also the increasingly common tactics that hackers employ is the concept of social engineering. Now, what is social engineering, you might ask? So rather than having to sit behind the monitors and try to crack all of these complicated systems, hackers discover that rather than hacking the system, why not hack or why not exploit the person behind the system? That's where social engineering comes into play. So rather than bypassing technical defenses, hackers discover that they're targeting the most vulnerable element in any security system, which is the human element. Like I always tell people, the weakest link in any information system is always the human element. And you're going to learn why in this session. So consider this, even if you have the strongest passwords or the most secure systems, one wrong click on a deceptive email could open the door to a world of trouble. Social engineering takes advantage of our natural tendencies to be helpful, to trust, and to sometimes act on impulse. So they are going to break down these psychological tricks and also give you tools that you need to protect yourself. So whether you're at home or in the workplace. And I heard something that's even more interesting. So if you stay with us for the full session, you will receive a certificate of participation. So the certificate not only validates your commitment to learning about cybersecurity, but can also be a great addition to your professional profile. So please ensure that you stay to the end of the program. So before we move forward, I'd like to cover a few key housekeeping points to ensure that everyone gets the most out of today's session. So first of all is that please use, like I mentioned earlier, please use the chat box to submit your questions at any time. We'll have a dedicated Q&A session near the end where we'll address all of your queries. Next up, if you're having any technical difficulties throughout the entire duration of the webinar, please feel free to use the support chat and our team will assist you promptly. So if you're having any difficulties, any issues throughout the entire duration of this webinar. So just drop your issues or your comments in the chat box, and a member of our team is going to respond to you and have that sorted out for you as quickly as possible. Next up, we also like to inform you that this session is being recorded and it will be made available to participants afterwards. So along with the certificates of participation. So this webinar that we're having this is a live webinar, but by tomorrow or latest Tuesday, the live recording of this is going to go up on YouTube. So we just want to let you guys know that this session is being recorded. Now, so once again, thank you for being here. Just a quick heads up once again. So towards the end of the session, we're going to be sharing a Google form link that you're going to need to fill out in order to receive your certificate of participation. So make sure to stay until the end and complete the form so we can get your certificate to you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Thank you very much and see you in the session. So we're going to be bringing up our first speaker for today, which is Mr. John Akirile, and he's going to be telling us all about the found. He's going to be giving us a solid foundation on what social engineering is all about and all that entails. So please, Mr. John, the floor is all yours. Thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a wonderful session.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to show if I'm valuable enough. Good evening, everyone. Please, am I being heard?
Good evening. We can hear you.
Okay, please. Can I get the confirmation if my slide, if you can all see my slide? Okay. So thank you so much, Mr. Abdul. So we'll be looking into understanding social engineering. So I'll be running us through how we can understand social engineering. First and foremost, let's look at what we'll be looking at, which is an introduction into social engineering. We look at the psychology behind social engineering. I'll take us through real-world examples of social engineering attacks and impact of social engineering on individuals and organizations. Okay, so social engineering is a manipulation technique that exploits human psychology to gain unauthorized access to information, systems, or physical locations rather than relying on technical hacking skills. Social engineers use deception to trick individuals into divulging confidential data or performing actions that compromise their security. So rather than me spending hours trying to hack a system, I can actually social engineer someone to get what I actually need. Over to the next one, the psychology behind social engineering. So what exactly is social engineering? So social engineering is a cyber attack method that relies on human interaction to deceive individuals into breaking security protocols. It involves tactics such as impersonation, deception, and manipulation to gain access to sensitive information. So why for Mr. Abdul said humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity. So why are humans actually the weakest link in cybersecurity? So unlike technological vulnerabilities that can be patched, human vulnerabilities are harder to eliminate. And this is the reason why, because attackers exploit natural human traits like trust, your urgency, and your curiosity to bypass security measures. So every human has one of these, and an attacker would actually exploit any of these human traits just to bypass some security measures and gain unauthorized access to certain things. let's take a look at the key psychological principles that hackers exploit, which is number one, trust. Attackers pose as trusted individuals, IT support executives to gain access. Probably, I don't know if some of you might have gotten some mails or someone calls you that, oh, we are so person from this bank, your bank credit information. We need to, update certain information from you. We need your PIN and probably your credit card number for us to be able to edit or update your account. So because you know that, okay, for some persons, they could be scared at that point in time. Or let's say I personally call you, I'm a friend of yours, and I tell you that, oh, I got a mail from this and that. I want to help you to update. Because you trust me, you would actually expose or you would give me the required information. So trust is one of the natural traits of humans that attackers actually exploit. The other principle is urgency. They create a sense of immediate action. Your account will be locked if you don't respond. And these guys, they don't give you the ability to think. That is one thing. So if you are in a situation whereby someone wants to get a certain information and they, bombard you with X amount of information, they're actually clouding your mind in such a way that you are unable to think. It is after they've gained access or they've done whatever they want to do, then you will now start processing all of those things that, oh, why didn't I think of this before I release this information? It is because they are actually, putting a lot of information, putting you on pressure just to get what they need. So the third one, which is fear, threat of consequences, e.g., legal trouble, job loss, lead victims to comply without questioning. The fourth one, which is your curiosity. Victims are enticed to click on malicious links or open suspicious attachment. Now you can get a link from someone to say, click on this link to win 500 gigabytes, because you know that 500 gigabytes is something huge. You click on it and they might have accidentally programmed some form of malware or some virus via the link, and the moment you click on that link, you are compromised at the instance. So let's take a look at a real world example of social engineering attack. So a primary example is an attacker who leverage the normal user behavior. Suppose that you are a security professional who is in charge of the network firewalls, let's say of a bank and other security infrastructure equipment in your company. So as an attacker, I could post a job offer for a very lucrative position and make it very attractive to you. So how do I do this? Let's say I want to get access to a certain organization. I can go on their website, go to their About Us page, look at the names. Okay, this is Chris Okafor. I know that every organizations usually have their specified email address. I could just put Chris Okafor or Chris at companyname.com. I know that, okay, one of these email is going to go through. So you saw that post job offer for that position and it is very attractive to you. Now, the job description and benefit compensation is far beyond what you're actually making at your company. Then you decide to apply for that position. So the attacker then schedules an interview with you and you are likely to show off. That is one thing. You are likely to show off your skill, your experience just to get that job. Now, the attacker may be able to get you to explain how you have configured the firewalls and other network infrastructure device for your company. And you might actually disclose information about the firewalls used in your network, how you have configured them, how they were designed. So this could give the attacker a lot of knowledge about the organization without requiring the attacker to perform any type of scanning or information gathering on the network. Now, because it is normal for humans to want to show off their skill because I need this job. So let me run us through a social engineering I used on one of my professor at the university when I was trying to complete my project. So I had the man, so he has approved my topic and all of that. So I was passing chapter 2, and the man, he had told me to reprint chapter 12 to like 4 times. And looking at it, I know that if this continues, I'm likely not to either graduate of this school. So I did what we call information gathering. So I tried to get the times that this man, because he was not teaching us at then, get his lecturing time. So for 4 times, I bumped into this man with my project file. Okay, ensuring I'm telling him that, okay, sir, this, and this. So I noticed one thing: he does not recognize me. I have to leverage on that. That is what we call awareness manipulation. So the fact that this man did not know me, I didn't see him again for the next 3 months or 4 months. So the second lady who was with me, at some point in time, some of the things he filled for me, he marked for this guy, and I'm like, okay, he's like, this man actually has me in mind on one thing. So when I knew that this girl was done with her project, I didn't even bother. I just compiled my chapter 1 to 5, went to submit to the man. Okay, sir, you asked me to come to so that you can approve my project, blah blah blah. He looked at me strangely, like, you that I want to finish, and you asked me to come. So I mean, I had created an impression on him that, sir, I've met with you up to like 4 times, and he was like, oh, okay, like he doesn't recognize me, and that was how I was able to scale through. He marked the project. I completed the project without having to even stress myself. So that is one thing that people can use against you. So let's also look at some other um, social engineering attack, which is phishing attack. So attackers send fraudulent emails pretending to be from legitimate source, e.g., banks, government agencies, to steal certain credentials. Example: an employee could receive an email appearing to be from HR requesting login details for a payroll update. Now, imagine we work at First Bank. Okay, I am John. My other colleague is Chris. So you see an email from me, John, at firstbank.com. You are likely to actually send me these login details because now you are seeing my name as the sender of that email. Whereas it is actually an attacker trying to, get the information from you. So another one is pretexting. An attacker fabricates a scenario to steal information. So this is what I did for my lecturer there. So, e.g., posing as a technician needing login access. So an example: a fraudster calls a company pretending to be an IT staff member requesting for password reset. So the third one, we have tailgating or pickbacking. So this is an unauthorized individuals who gain physical access to restricted areas by following an authorized person. An example is an attacker in business attire follows an employee into a secure building pretending they forgot their ID badge. We might have seen some of these things in movies, probably a delivery guy coming as, he wants to deliver an object or a package to someone in the organization, and he doesn't have the ID. He might just follow someone that, is with his badge into the company or any restricted area in the organization. So let's look at the impact on individuals and organization. You have financial loss. Companies suffer financial damage from fraud, data breaches, and regulatory fines. I was reading an article sometime last week, and I saw the millions of naira. Is it Lazarus Group now? Yes, that's one of the a group, an hacking group, whereby they do a whole lot of stuff. So they were able to steal X amount of money from over 1,050 developers. Yeah, you have data breaches. Sensitive customer and corporate data may be leaked, leading to identity theft or competitive disadvantage. We also have reputational damage. The trust in a company or individual can be severely affected after a successful attack. Now, imagine you heard in the news that, oh, in the last 1 year, OP has been hacked 5 times. You would lose trust in them. You will want to take out all of your money from them. You won't want to do anything from them because now their security has been breached for 5 times, and you know that, okay, so this can actually cause reputational damage. We have operational disruption. So a successful attack can cripple IT infrastructure, it can disrupt business operations and require costly mitigation efforts. Both in not necessarily in Nigeria, in other countries, we've seen cases whereby a single attack rendered the company bankrupt and they had to close off. Why? Because so an attacker was able to have access into their infrastructure. And over the years, or based on articles that I've seen, the most successful attacks over the world are based on social engineering. You will hardly see, and there are some attackers who go the extra mile to travel to a country to insert probably USB drives on some network just to get certain information. But it takes a whole lot of time. I can just social engineer anybody to get any kind of information that I need without having to spend X amount of hours, trying to hack or crack the network or infrastructure. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. John. So I'm just trying to share my slide now so I can jump back in. All right, so thank you very much, Mr. John, for that wonderful explanation of some of the foundational aspects of what social engineering is and what it's all about. So what I'm just going to be trying to do here is to just tell you more guys a little bit more concerning what exactly social engineering is, and also show you guys and shed more light on some of the tools and tactics that are used by these hackers. Okay, so welcome to the section where we're going to be diving into the actual tools and tactics that hackers are able to employ to manipulate their targets. So in this section, of course, this is Absalam once again, and I'm going to be your second speaker for today. So in this part, we'll be exploring several common techniques, and I'll explain each one in simple, clear terms that you can easily recognize them, even if you ever come across them. So I'm going to try to make this section as relatable as possible. Now, let's first start again with what exactly is social engineering. So social engineering is a term that is used to describe any cyber attack where a human rather than a computer is the target. So for this reason, it's sometimes referred to as people hacking. Okay, let me go over that once again. So social engineering, we could call it any form of cyber attack where a human rather than a computer is the target. So for example, now if a hacker wishes to obtain let's say a victim's password now, they could try to brute force the password. So when I'm talking about brute forcing, what brute forcing is just simply a random sequence of guesses, right? So whenever you want to get, let's say you want to get someone's ATM pin, what you could try to do is try different ATM pins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or just keep trying different 4-number sequences until you get an answer. Now, that is a possibility, right? But it's not a very practical solution, because you would have to try a sequence of about 1 million, if not more, number combinations before you could get the actual pin. What a sophisticated hacker could instead do is simply just ask you. Now, that is easier said than done, right? But it is an actual practice that is being employed, and that is the whole idea behind social engineering. Rather than having to break into a complicated system that 1,000 or 1 million different intelligent people came about to make possible, why not just hack the person behind the system? Why not just ask you for your password instead of having to break into the system on yourself? That's the main idea, the main goal of social engineering. So social engineering is a psychological attempt, right, at getting individuals, or of course even businesses, to disclose their own confidential information willingly. Now, I said willingly, but of course it is usually under the guise of something else. So they are trying to trick you. They don't, of course, someone just can't come up to you and say, can you give me your ATM pin? You're likely going not to answer, of course, report to that person, right? But that's the whole idea behind social engineering. So of course, the example that I give is relatively straightforward, right? But social engineering attacks can be very complex, and they often result in the attacker gaining significant control over a target's life. Now, imagine the consequences if someone was able to get your ATM pin. So like I said, in this session, we're going to be explaining some common tools and tactics that hackers employ to manipulate their targets. So we'll be exploring some social engineering, some common social engineering techniques. We'll talk about the fact that social engineering relies heavily on deception. That's trying to manipulate. So the goal of a social engineer is just to try to mess with your head, try to get you to trust them, to believe them. Sometimes they want to be your friend. Sometimes they want to have a higher authority over you. They want to be like your boss, or sometimes they're trying to mimic. So most of the time, social engineering just relies heavily on deception, right? So hackers use psychological manipulation instead of technical exploits. Like I said, instead of trying to sit behind a computer, type for hours on end, trying to break into a system, why not just pick up a phone and call someone and ask them? Of course, it's not as straightforward as that, but ask them for their password. So today, we're going to be learning all about that. We're also going to be learning how to identify red flags in everyday conversation, everyday interaction. So how we're going to be able to spot some of these types of attacks. Because like I said, they always try to play on our intelligence. They always try to get us to trust them, try to believe in them. And then this is where they get us. So that's what we're going to be trying to do, to explore today. We'll be trying to understand how these hackers are able to get us to trust them, and also able to get us to give them our confidential information without even knowing in some cases. So let's talk about that now, shall we? I hope you guys are excited for this, because I am. So let's dive into it and look at all of these things one after the other. Now, first of all, we just have a couple bullet points here. We're going to be talking about briefly. We're just looking at some of the things that we're going to be looking at in my session today. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is the concept of phishing. So we'll talk about what phishing is, what it pertains to. So phishing has to do with things like fake emails, messages, or websites that are aimed at stealing your personal data. So we'll look at a couple of those. We also have a demonstration that I'm going to be showing you guys how a phishing attempt works, how our hackers are able to do it, and some of the things that you should be looking out for in relation to phishing. Now, we're also going to quickly also brush it. Well, Mr. John already shed light on this, but we're just going to be retouching on it and trying to give it a more relatable feel. So we'll be talking about the context of pretexting. So we'll talk about what pretexting is all about. So it's basically the goal is to impersonate, to try to extract sensitive information. So we'll look at it in depth. So like I said, this slide, what we're doing here is just a quick run through of some of the things that we're going to be discussing in subsequent slides. So I just want to let you guys know some of the things that we're going to be looking at in the near future. We'll also talk about the concept of baiting and how it pertains to social engineering. And then lastly, we look at tailgating, which more has to do with more of physical security, right? So we look at also physical. So basically, protecting your information doesn't just have to, when I'm talking about social engineering, it doesn't just apply to digital information, right? It doesn't just apply to information. That's what I mean by that. It doesn't just apply to information that you have on your systems, on your hard drive, and things like that. It also relates to physical information, so documents and things like that. Protecting that is also a core aspect of protecting yourself against social engineering techniques and attacks. So we'll be looking at that tailgating as well, which is a physical security, which is a physical security social engineering technique. So like I said, we're going to be running through each of these social engineering techniques in depth. I'm going to be trying to explain all of these things one after the other as relatable as I can. I want to ensure that each and every one of you walks away with a solid understanding of what social engineering is and some of the techniques that these hackers employ to try and trick you, to try to manipulate you into disclosing your confidential information. Sometimes even without your knowledge, you may have disclosed information and you're still unaware of anything happening. Now let's look at this. Let's look at this one after the other. So let's start off with phishing, right? Which is one of the most popular ones. So first of all, you may be wondering, what is phishing? It sounds like phishing, basically, like F-I-S-H-I-N. No, I didn't get the spelling wrong. This is how it's meant to be spelled. So what exactly is phishing? Now, phishing rather is a subsection of social engineering. Wow. Social engineering is a broader term, right? It is, like I said, it is just social engineering it's like kind of like an umbrella term. It covers a range of different types of attacks. So any cyber attack where a human rather than a computer is the target, can refer to it as social engineering. Phishing is more streamlined. So we can say phishing is kind of like a branch of social engineering. Yeah, I like that. So phishing is a subtopic or a branch of social engineering. Social engineering is a very general term that is used to describe any attack that takes advantage of the human rather than the computer system. Phishing specifically describes attack whereby a scammer or an attacker tries to trick a victim into opening a malicious web page by sending them either a text message, an email, or even or any form of, or any other form of online correspondence, basically. So traditionally, phishing used to, let's say in the olden days, a couple years back, 5, 10, 15 years ago, right? Traditionally, phishing usually referred to just emails, right? So whenever, like if you pick up a textbook from 10, 15 years ago, when they're talking about phishing, they're likely going to restrict or confine their definition of phishing to just emails. Now, but you see, we're evolving. New technology is coming up. We have different social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all of these new ways in which we can communicate, and we're not just restricted to email and email alone. There are so many different ways that we can communicate over the internet now, right? And with the advent of these different means that are simplifying our communication mechanisms, there is also the chances that hackers are also figuring out ways that they can exploit these social platforms, these platforms that were put in place for people to be able to communicate globally, right? They are exploiting those platforms that people are put in place innocently to discover new ways in which they can target and potentially exploit unwitting participants. Now, let's go back to what we're talking about, phishing, right? So like I said, phishing traditionally was restricted to just email. So however, in the days of instant messages, text messages, and of course, voice and video calling, the term has evolved to blanket these other categories, right? So we have different forms of phishing now. We have phishing that occurs over text message, and that's usually referred to as smishing, right? We have phishing that occurs over voice calls. Now, let's talk about the ones that occurs over voice call. Phishing, that's what it's called. So phishing is something that I feel like, let's say, how many are we here? I would say about 60, 70% of us at one point in our life have been on the receiving end of a possible phishing attempt. Now, let me give you an example. You might say, what is that? Have I been somebody has targeted me for that kind of thing? But yes, you have. Now, let me give an example of what a phishing attempt looks like. Link, link, link. You receive a phone call. Hello, good evening. This is Mr. Bayo. I'm calling you from Access Bank. We noticed that you have carried out several transactions over totaling 1 million naira in this past 1 hour. We just wanted to confirm if you were indeed the one behind said transaction. Oh, what happened? 1 million? That was not me. You start to panic. Your blood pressure starts to rise. Your head starts to turn. You start to wonder, how could this happen? Mr. Bayo tells you, there's nothing to worry about. We can have this rectified for you. All we require of you is the last 4 digits of your BVN. No, first thing first, he calls you, he tells you your name, he tells you maybe a few digits about you, so you believe him, you trust him that, okay, this is indeed Mr. Bayo from Access Bank. Because how did he get this information? Getting information is very easy. That's what we call information gathering. So the first thing is, first of all, to try and gather information about your target. Of course, before you try and hack someone, you have to first understand the system they are trying to get into. So first of all, they will do their diligence. They know a little bit about you. A little bit is sometimes all that is required. So they call you, they tell you this is Mr. Bayo, they are getting them to trust you. Now, the first thing that if you notice from my explanation, the first thing that they try to do is to try to create a sense of urgency. They want to try to get you to panic, right? That's the first thing. That's the first aspect of phishing. They always want to try to create a sense of urgency. Now, urgency is always a red flag. So a common thing with phishing attempts is to try to create a false sense of urgency. Okay. After they do that, okay, you start to panic. You tell him your last digit, and then it's go. He said, no problem. We'll fix it for you. We'll get it fixed for you. What I've just tried to explain to you, what this example scenario that I've just given you is a phishing attempt, voice phishing. Now let's now come back to sorry for deviating. Now let's now come back to our official definition. So phishing is perhaps one of the most widely recognized social engineering attacks. In a phishing attempt, the hacker sends a fraudulent email or a text message, or it may even be a voice call that appears to come from a reputable source. Notice a reputable source in our scenario was Access Bank. Now, such as maybe your bank or a popular online service. Like I said, they always want to try to create a impersonation is usually a common thing with social engineering. They want to impersonate a trusted brand or a colleague, because someone can just call you right out of the blue and tell you, good afternoon, tell me the last 6 digits of your PIN. You're going to end that call. That doesn't make any sense now. Nobody's going to believe that. So they usually try to impersonate either a trusted brand or sometimes even colleagues. So how does this work? So like I said, the phishing message now, it often contains urgent language that pushes you to take immediate action. That urgent language might be something along the lines of, your account to be suspended if you don't update your information now. We're going to lock your account if you don't comply, things like that. They just want you to panic. They want to create that sense of urgency. Because when people panic, they start to mix key information, key details that might tell you, that might show you clear chances that might show you that this is a scam. But when you panic, you miss key things. That's what they want to try to induce, right? So they might include, of course, if it's by text message or if it's by email. So most of the time you receive an email, you see it is from Facebook. it appears, let me say, it appears to be from Facebook. They tell you someone logged into your accounts from Pakistan. If this wasn't you, click on this link to change your password or something like that. You click on the link, you are redirected to a site that looks like there appears to be the original Facebook site. You fill in your email, your password, you log in. No problem, right? You've changed your password, or so you think. After a couple minutes later, you open your Facebook account, you notice you've been logged out. What happened? How did this happen? What caused it? You start to think to yourself, oh no, they've hacked my account. But sometimes some people are not even aware that they're the one that gave out their password. Sometimes people are so oblivious to what exactly has happened. Now, this is what social engineering tries to do, right? So in essence, a simple analogy that I want you to walk away with, so try to understand what social engineering is all about, is think of it like, let's say, a fake letter, right? That's in your mailbox. It looks official, but of course, it asks you for something in return. Maybe it asks you to send money to claim a prize or to provide some information, some confidential information before you can get access to more benefits. So that's a little bit about social engineering, and it is number one social engineering attack, right? Phishing. Take that away. Now let's move forward and let me tell you about the second social engineering technique that is actively being employed by these fraudsters or these hackers, right? Attackers. Next one we're looking at is the concept of pretexting. So what is pretexting? So pretexting involves creating a fabricated scenario or identity to trick someone into divulging confidential information. Interesting. So the hacker invents a believable story, a pretext, right, to gain your trust. And let's now look at this once again. So the pretexting is basically they're creating a fake story, a fake but believable story. Okay, so it can't be too far-fetched. Of course, they wanted to make it believable. So they're creating a fake but believable story, guys, which they are using to request your information. Now, I want to track back to the earlier example, the earlier scenario I gave about Mr. Abayo from Access Bank. I hope you can remember. I hope you guys are following along with me, please. I want to ensure that no one gets lost in the middle of all of these things. So that's the whole, guys, that whole scenario that Mr. Avayo invented. Are calling you that you have withdrawn 1 million, or you have a series of transactions. We noticed a series of transactions from you at, let's say, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. We just wanted to confirm if it was you. This is a fake but believable story, right? They're calling you, they're saying that your bank is calling you and they're telling you they notice transactions at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., which is very, very much unlike you. They just want to confirm if you were behind those transactions. Now, for some people, they might think, oh, it's not possible, right? But it is very pretexting. Is now, of course, these scenarios I'm giving is just off the top of my head. The hacker that has time to spend is going to likely go to come up with more believable story, right? So pretexting is all about creating a fabricated scenario or identity to trick someone into divulging confidential information. So the hacker is inventing a believable story, which is referred to as a pretext to gain your trust. So how does it work now? For example, the attacker might pose as, let's say, a trusted colleague, maybe a bank representative, or even law enforcement to request sensitive data. Now, let me just give you one last example again, right? I don't want to use this example that I have on my screen. I want to give you one last example that I've seen time and time again in the world. Something that happens a lot in organization. So what the hacker does is this. Let's say they go on, let's say, professional site like LinkedIn or something like that, right? They pick a target organization. So most times they're picking a small to medium-sized organization for this. They look through LinkedIn, they see some of the staff, they see who is the CEO and things like that. Fine, they've done that. The next thing to do is now to figure out how to contact some of the staff at this company. Maybe they find their emails, phone numbers, or things like that. And they reach out to staff at this company, pretending to be their boss. Now, this is pretext. This is where pretext for me. They are using the fake identity, which is the identity of the CEO of the company. They've done their research, their homework. They've gathered some information. They send an email. Hello, good afternoon. This is your boss. I'm in a meeting right now, and I need you to purchase maybe gift cards worth $1,000, and I'm going to refund you back immediately after the meeting. Please do it as urgent as possible. This is one of the most popular scams, and it works. That's the honest truth. It actually works. People actually fall for it because they believe. Why? Because they trust. Trust is the first thing. Social engineering implies on different things. Trust is one of those things. They are seeing the email. They are seeing the email. The email contains their boss's name, right? So they believe, okay, this email is actually for my boss. But what they do not realize is that what they are saying is the email display name. The email address is different from the display name. The display name is what they are saying. They see it has their their boss's full name, and they automatically believe, okay, this is my boss, right? Human beings are very trusting by nature. Once they see it, they automatically believe, yes, this is my boss. What does my boss want me to do? Once you believe that, you are gone. That's pretexting for you. Now, let's move forward to the next technique that we're going to be looking at today, which is baiting. So like I said, once again, this list is far from exhaustive, first of all. So I'm just giving you a quick run through of some of the more common social engineering techniques. So this is not everything that could possibly exist, but this is just a highlight of some of the more common ones. Now, baiting. Baiting. First of all, what I usually say about baiting is if an offer seems too good to be true, 80%, let me just say 80, 90% or 90% of if an offer seems too good to be true, there is about a 90% chance that it probably is. So if something seems too good to be true, you should be very cautious of it. And it's 90% of the times it probably is. Now, let's talk about baiting. So baiting involves offering something appealing to the target, such as maybe a free gift, a discount, or a download in exchange for personal information or access. Now, sometimes one thing I want to mention is that sometimes all of these phishing techniques that I'm talking about, sometimes there's what the hacker decides to do is take one, join both together, collabo, and it makes it that much more dangerous. Now, I want to explain for you smishing and baiting hand in hand. Let me give you an explanation. This is a message that I received. I feel like a lot of people have received before. Congratulations, federal government is giving it to blah blah blah. Click on this link to fill out your information and get your money. What has happened here? First of all, they are sending you a fake link, right? That's the smishing part of it. They send you an SMS message with a fake link. So don't forget, smishing is SMS phishing. Okay? So they're sending you a fake link with they're sending you a fake SMS with a fake link. That's the smishing part of it. The baiting part of it is that they're offering you an incentive. They're telling you that you've won 80,000 naira just because, for no legitimate reason, because they are giving it out, right? Of course, it seems too good to be true, right? But some people believe it. Some people are desperate for that money. They need it, right? And that desperation usually leads to, well, I don't know, it usually leads to you not paying attention, you not seeing some of the things that will let you know this is a red flag. So baiting is when you are offering something appealing to the target in order to gain their trust. Okay, so how does it work? First thing is the bait. So the bait can be a physical item, like maybe, of course, the promise of money, a USB drive that's left in a public place, or an online offer that promises something that's too good to be true. So once you take the bait, your system or your data can be compromised. Now, let me also tell you, I want to talk about something more technical, but it's something that happens very frequently, something that hackers are able to do. So imagine a hacker wants to infect your system with, let's say, a malware, for instance, or of course, some of us call it virus, but it's deeper than that. But that's not a topic for today. So imagine a hacker wants to infect your system with a malware, something that or let's say he wants to infect an organization with a malware, something that can easily be done rather, is what we know it's a baiting technique. So let me explain what your hacker will do. They have a flash drive, let's say a USB drive or a flash drive, and they have infected that flash drive with a malware. Something very simple. Like I'm going to mention it, and I'm going to say, no, that's not possible. But it is, and it does happen. So what they can simply do is they take that infected flash drive, just walk around, maybe they just walk around the company and just drop it, right? Just start putting maybe a couple flash drives, just drop it around, spread it around, just drop a few flash drives around the organization. Now, the chances are somebody is just going to walk around and see, oh, free flash drive, thank God, take it in, go inside the company and plug it into a system. And by doing that, by taking the bait, you have successfully infected a system inside of your company's network. Right? That's why baiting can be so dangerous. Something as simple as just walking around and dropping flash drives in public areas. Right? A lot of people, you see flash drive on the floor, you say, thank God, today is my lucky day. We don't know that, no, reverse is actually the case. So baiting is also another very dangerous social engineering technique. So just walking around, dropping things like that. So it's simple. And so picture a scenario. Of course, another baiting tactic that a lot of us here are very much guilty of is, of course, picture a scenario where you find a free movie download online. Why we don't want to pay for it. We don't want to subscribe to Netflix, Amazon. It's too expensive. I can download it for free. Fine. You like free things. Good for you. So picture a scenario where you're downloading free movies online, but clicking the link installs harmful software on your device. Now, this is something that a lot of us do frequently. We don't want to pay for streaming services. We feel like I can get it for free. If you're free online, you're downloading it for free. But you do not know. And this is something that, but of course, it's possible that your system has been infected by malware a long time ago, but it still acts normal. But like I said, malware is not the topic for today. So all of this that I've talked about so far so good is also the concept of baiting. Free movie downloads, fake job offers, the promise of free cash, free gifts, free discounts, all of these things are baiting. right? So they are just offering you something, appealing to you, in exchange for personal information or access. And that's plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen, is the concept of baiting. But we're not done just yet. We have one more common technique that we're going to be looking at, and that is the concept of tailgating. Now, what is tailgating, you may ask? Good question. So tailgating is more of a, like I said, is more of a physical security breach rather than an online attack. So it is, but it's, of course, it is just as dangerous. So in these tactics, an unauthorized person, that's someone that is, when I say unauthorized, I'm talking about someone that does not have legitimate access, someone that you did not invite into your home, for instance, is unauthorized. You did not tell the person you are coming. That's unauthorized. Okay. So in this tactic, an unauthorized person follows an authorized individual into a secure area. Now you may be surprised how frequent something like this may happen. So easy. It's very close. It's not technical at all in the list, but it's very simple. It's just tailgating is just a way of gaining access into a restricted area by following an unauthorized personnel. How does it work? So now, this might happen, let's say, for instance, in an office building, right? So someone without proper credentials, let's say, for instance, you have to scan your badge before you come into an office building. Everybody that wants to come into the building, you walk in, scan your bag, you get in. That's the process, right? So what happens now is that someone that wants to gain access to that company, all they have to do is maybe wear a suit, right? Look like they actually have the permissions, look like they are supposed to be there. All you have to do sometimes for tailgating is just to look the part. You know that's a corporate organization. You see people scanning their badge. All you have to do simply do is just follow someone in and say, "Oh my God, touch your pocket. Oh my God, sorry, excuse me, I forgot my badge. Could you please scan me in?" Say no problem. The person wants to be nice. That's a trust. They trust you. They see that you're wearing suits, you're carrying a briefcase. They feel like, okay, yes, you actually deserve to be. You actually are supposed to be here. Because why is someone that is wearing suit not here, right? The human nature is just politeness. They trust you because they look at you. They look you head to toe. Okay, no problem. That's why appearances can be deceiving. Look at you, no problem. I'll scan my badge for you. Bam, you are in. You don't have no permission to be there. You are not a staff. You don't work there. You're not anything. But because they looked at you and they trust you, they've granted you access. That's tailgating, right? You are following an authorized person now in order to gain access into a restricted area. And it is very common in office environments that have very relaxed security. So now, yes, that's a quick run through of all of the different common techniques that are usually employed by hacker. But like I said, my list is far from exhaustive. There are a lot that we cannot discuss today due to time constraints, obviously. But this is just a quick run through of some of the highlights of the more common ones that work. Like all of these things that I talked about, they may seem very basic, very easy, but sometimes easy things also work. So they seem very basic, but they work. The reason why they are on my list is because they work. They are implemented, they are tested and trusted time and time again. They stood the test of time. So before we move to the live demonstration of my phishing attempts, I want to check in with you, everyone. Yeah. So has anyone here, I was just wondering, a quick check in before we move forward once again. Yeah. So has anyone experienced receiving an email that made them feel a sense of urgency or fear? Right. Just take time to think about it. Have you ever received an email or a phone call or a text message that tried to provoke a sense of urgency or fear in you? I want you to take time out just to take a minute to think about it, right? So these examples that I give are not just theory. They are part of everyday life in the digital world. And this is one of the reasons why you have to be very observant. You have to, I don't want to say paranoid, but you have to be very, well, let's stick to the term observant, right? So now let's move forward to the next slide, shall we? I hope you guys are still with me. I hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope you're learning new things as you're moving along with me. Now let's move to the next slide. We're going to be talking about, of course, I'm going to be showing you a live demonstration. So seeing is believing, right? We've talked. Now let's now see. Okay. So we're going to be beginning. I'm going to be starting now. I'm going to be beginning our simulation now. Well, in a couple minutes, of course, I'm already sharing my screen, but in a few minutes, I'm going to be showing you a live video or a live demonstration that I did in a couple. I did a couple minutes ago to show you guys how phishing, how a hacker could potentially carry out a phishing attempt. Now I want to just the demonstration I'm about to show you, it took me nothing less than, let's say, 5-10 minutes to come about. Now I want to, before I even show you, it took me 5-10 minutes. Now imagine what a hacker that has time to spend, that knows what the potential impacts or the amount of money they can make from that attempt. Imagine how much time they can spend and how much danger they can cause, right? So Yeah, so like I said, they use realistic tactics to trick users. And the upcoming simulation I'm going to show you is going to showcase a real-world phishing tactic. So I want you guys to pay close attention to some of the red flags. Now I'm going to be pointing out those red flags after the demonstration, but I just want to pay attention to see if you are able to spot some of the issues here, right? From the little knowledge I've gained so far, I'm just going to try to quickly explain and see if you're able to if you're able to spot some of the red flags or some of the things that should trigger your spidey sense or your sense of caution, your sense of danger. So the first thing I want to quickly show you guys is just an image, right, of what it may look like. So this is the first thing that you receive from the hacker. You open your email, you refresh your email. Every morning you wake up, you check your email. You see, oh no, this is a message from Google, security account. What happened? They notice you connect to a new device. A user just signed into your Google account from a new Windows device. We are sending you this email to verify that it is you. What comes to your head? Oh my God, what happened? Someone signed into my device. That was not me. I was asleep. This is like, I'm imagining that this is the first message you see in the morning, right? You've been asleep the whole day. Who signed into my account from a new device? That wasn't me. No problem. Let me just quickly click this button to check, to consult the activity, right? Seems harmless. It seems harmless enough, right? So you click the button to consult the activity, and what happens? Now, next slide. So this is my demonstration. Real quick, we're just gonna run through this. So you open it, you see this message. Signing attempt was blocked, blah blah blah. Someone just you see this message also. Signing attempt was blocked, blah blah blah. No problem. Check activity. All right. So you click on the button to check your activity or consult activity. What happens next? You're redirected to a page. Now, this page, if you have a good Gmail account, which I am assuming a lot of us have, yes or no, doesn't this look exactly like the Gmail login? Yes or no? Right? Yes or no? Simply straightforward question. Does this not look like the exact Gmail version? And it behaves like it also. So you click on the button, it asks you to sign in, no problem. You put in your email address, simple and straightforward, right? Blah blah blah, tester. You click on next. It refreshes, it asks you for your password. Still looks like the Gmail password. Still looks like Gmail official site, right? No problem. You put in your password, blah, blah, blah. You click on next. Now, something I want you guys to be aware of it once again is, remember that I told you that this whole site they are looking at with the email, everything, it took me less than 5 minutes to start to create, okay? So you click on it, next, refreshes, what happens? It refreshes back to Gmail. Oh, maybe the login didn't work. No problem. But you see, it indeed worked, right? So for you, you are not the wiser. You assume is that you typed in your email, your password, the page refers to Google again. Maybe network issues. You don't put much thought to it, right? But what you do not know is that on the other side, the hacker side of things, their work is done. They've received all of the information that they need to get into your system. And I'm going to show you that. Let the video load through, sorry. Let it run through. Bam. This is what the hacker sees on their own terminal. Notice it. Exact same information I typed in the demonstration. Your email, tester, the password. Of course, the password wasn't showing, but this is the exact same password I typed. Tester 123. They have your IP address. They have the browser and every more information about you. Bam, it's gone. You're none the wiser. The only thing you see, let me take it back once again. The only thing you see is that you type in your email, your password, it refreshes, and you're back to Gmail. You wonder what is the problem, but you don't put much thought to it. I don't know. Maybe it's network issue. No problem. But you see, what has happened in the back end is that the hacker has gotten your username and your password. Like I said, this demonstration took me less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes or less to even come about. Imagine what a hacker that has the time and the effort, how convincing he can make this. Right? Now let's not come back to this. Now, is there anyone here that could tell me anything that they noticed from the email alone? Could you tell me anything that I noticed that would trigger or would have triggered, let's say, a sense of urgency in you, right? Something that you think back now, you think back and you said, okay, no, I should have been more cautious. I should have been more observant, right? Now, from the image I showed you, there's a telltale sign, an easy way of realizing that was a fake email, right? But I'm not sure a lot of people here caught it. So I want to know from the previous email, I'm not going to show you the email again, but is there anyone here that caught it from the email I showed you in the previous slide? Is there anyone here that caught the exact issue? Anyone? Okay, no problem. So now, I've shown you the demonstration. Now, the next thing I want to show you guys now is what to look for in a phishing email. How to spot a phishing email is the next thing I want to tell you. Now, the first thing is, of course, is the sender's email address. Now, let's scroll back once again. Notice the sender's address. It looks very similar. They can tell you Gmail security account, but what I want you to pay closer attention to is the actual email address that the message originates from. Like I said, The display name can be easily spoofed. Anyone can change that display name. You do not even require any form of technical knowledge to change your email display name. Anybody can do it. Go to settings, display name, you can change that. But what is harder to come about is your actual originating email address. Now, how does this make sense that Facebook Secure is sending you an email from Google? Do they correlate? Any correlation? I think not. So the first thing that you should always be on the lookout for is the sender's email address. So subtle misspellings or other extra character. Now, of course, this is a very obvious, like I said, this is a very obvious attempt, right? But a hacker that has time to spend is going to make this a lot more convincing. So, but there are always telltale signs. If you are paying close enough attention, you always spot the signs. So notice the sender address. So it looks very similar to what you expect from a trusted source. So however, if you always look closely, there is always going to be things like small typos or an extra character because that sets it apart. Because of course they cannot get the actual Facebook or Google's domain. It's not possible. Google.com. You can't do that. So what they usually try to do is get domains that are very, very similar, very, very close. That if you not pay close attention to, you are going to miss. You may have maybe Google with 3, 4, 5 O's or 4 O's, something that is very, very minute, very subtle that you may not notice. So what we're talking about here, so if you look closely, there are always small actions, always things that you can do, always things that will call your attention to you. The next thing is urgent language. You always want to create a sense of urgency, immediate action required, things like that. And of course, suspicious links. So if you hover over the emails, over the link most of the time, before clicking it, it's going to show you the address that you're redirecting. So if you hover this link and it's not showing you google.com, that is a sign that it's fake. Another thing is, of course, grammar and spelling errors. But grammar and spelling errors, it's so 2007, right? Older level hackers, modern hackers know that most of the time they know these things and they are not going to make these mistakes. Basic mistakes like grammar or spelling errors, you're not going to do that. And of course, pressure to click. They always want to bait you, trick you, try to get you to panic and click the link. So that's all the time that we have for today, ladies and gentlemen, on my part. So we're going to be hearing from the next speaker, which is Mr. Moyesora Kukoyi, and he's going to be telling you a lot more about cybersecurity and social engineering and the topics at large. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope to see you all in subsequent webinars. So Mr. Moyo, please, you have the floor, sir.
Hello, good day. So let me pull up my slide. I hope everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, please just indicate. Thank you. Okay, can you all hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, fine. So I want to pull up my slide right now. You can see my slide, please also indicate to me that you can see it.
Yes, sir, your slide is visible.
Is visible? No, yeah. I think it tripped off again, right?
No, still visible.
Okay, great. So I'm scrolling to the next page, right? I just want to be sure we're all cool. Wait, what can you see on the slide right now? What can you see on your screen?
Topic 1, how to recognize and resist.
Great. Thank you. So we've taken a close look at how social engineering attacks work. So now we need to shift the focus to a critical skill, which is recognizing manipulative tactics before the harm. Before the harm comes up. Being aware of these tactics is your first line of defense against social engineering attacks. Now, you see, the truth is when you know what to look out for, you can stop an attack in its tracks. I know somehow, the previous speakers have already treated these things a bit, but we need to delve into more detail so that you can have, comprehensive knowledge. By the time you are done with this webinar, you'll be able to protect yourself against social engineering attacks as much as possible. So let's begin by discussing the red flags often found in social engineering attempts. That's how to recognize and resist manipulative tactics. The first is unexpected or unverified requests. If you receive an unsolicited message asking for personal or financial information, especially if it comes from an unexpected source, it should immediately raise suspicion to you. So always have this in mind. Most times attackers are going to ask you for what? Your personal information, very sensitive information. And they're always going to ask you for, most times going to ask you for financial information, because most times their goal is just for financial gain. So when you are receiving messages like this, always have it in mind. What are they asking you for? Things like your password, your BVN for those who are in Nigeria, social security number, Americans, and things like that. You get, always have this in mind that you need to treat this kind of messages or phone calls with caution. Now, also make sure that, and remember, just as the previous speakers have spoken, there is always a sense of urgency when they speak. Now, the thing is, with this sense of urgency, it's just some sort of psychological play on your mind, making you feel like, oh, I have to do this. I don't have enough time to think, and then you take action. You need to be cautious when these messages push you to act immediately, because, or without delay, because social engineers exploit urgency to override your normal judgments. When you act very quickly and you're not saying any, I mean, there's a tendency that you're not thinking before you act. And then you just do things that sometimes you later pause and think, and, oh, did I really make this decision in the first place? But because the previous speakers have emphasized sense of urgency as much as possible, I really want to also delve into a few other tactics that social engineers appeal to actually get you to, take action, to compromise you. Now, urgency, we already know, right? For example, you receive a phone call or email stating that your bank account has been compromised and that you must verify your identity within the next 10 minutes, or your account will be locked or funds will be transferred. The urgency is intended to prevent you from pausing to consider whether the request is legitimate or not. Now, sometimes they also appeal to authority, right? Attackers impersonate figures or institutions that hold power or expertise to establish credibility and make you more likely to comply. Just imagine if someone calls you like, oh, let's say an email appears to come from the IT department of your company where you work, complete with official logos and language. The message instructs you to install a software update immediately to avoid security breach. Now, the perceived authority of the IT department makes you less likely to question the request. Or, for example, let's say someone calls you and says, oh, he's the PA to the CEO, and then you all work in the same organization, and he's telling you to take an action that already ordinarily requires that you verify if this is really true. And then maybe you're asking him questions, and he says, the CEO is in a hurry. Are you trying to question the CEO? That's someone trying to bully you into, taking action as quickly as possible because he knows that you definitely will respect the CEO and you do not want to get into trouble with the CEO. Now, fear is used to paralyze your rational thinking by instilling a fear of negative consequences. Attackers push you to act impulsively when you're afraid. For example, a pop-up on your system that warns you that your device is infected with malware, and that failure to immediately download a security patch will result in data loss or identity theft. The fear of losing important files or sensitive information might drive you to click the link without proper verification. How about trust and familiarity? When you know someone, there is a tendency for you to actually take action as quickly as possible, whatever they tell you to do. And if you are convinced that the message is actually coming from someone that you know, there is a possibility, of course, there is the highest possibility that you are going to comply with whatever instructions they are giving you. For example, let's assume you receive an email that looks like nearly identical to communications from your bank. It even includes your name and parts of your account details, making the message seem legitimate. This familiarity encourages you to follow the instructions in the email, such as maybe click the link to verify your account details, and things like that. How about curiosity? By presenting something intriguing or mysterious, attackers arouse your curiosity, leading you to click links or open attachments without suspecting anything malicious. Just like Abdul said earlier, like, I think a curious person will see a flash drive, a USB drive on the ground, and will pick it up without knowing that, okay, maybe some malware is already installed in it just to attack your systems. So people who are not curious might not do this. Or let's say, for example, you want an email subject line reads, you've won a free smartphone. Click here to claim your prize. Even if you are not expecting the prize, the unexpected offer can trigger curiosity. Or how about greed? We've seen people that, they'll tell you that you will see emails. We've seen that even way back 15, 20 years ago, where you see emails saying that congratulations, you have been selected to receive a large cash prize. I mean, like, I have a brother who several years ago, probably 2007, received an email. 2007, that was almost 20 years ago, and that he had won some sort of very huge amount of money, and it was still an undergraduate then, and he was so excited, told me, and our parents, like, okay, I remember my dad saying, will you go and face your studies? I mean, that's a scam and things like that, but because a desire to make, that was a whole lot of money. If I can remember how much that was, maybe millions of dollars or something like that. Greed can sometimes not make you actually think right, and whatever they are requiring from you to claim that funds, you will actually go about it because you desire to make that money. So social proof also is another thing. When attackers imply that many others have already complied with the request, suggesting that it's safe for you to do it, there's a tendency for you to feel that, oh, because other people are doing it, I should also do it. So just so many, or is it empathy? Maybe you hear that you receive a message that a friend or a charitable organization is in a critical situation, and maybe somebody is stranded in a foreign country or affected by a natural disaster and they need immediate financial help. There are so many ways social engineers go about trying to exploit people to take advantage of them. So this is something that everyone needs, we need to actually pay clear attention to. Now that I've already gone deep into that aspect, another thing you need to look out for, which I think Abdul also touched on, is poor grammar and spelling. You see, many of the times people who put in their time to do this are usually, it's just simple. Most times many of these guys are actually from maybe non-English speaking countries, right? Somebody is from maybe this country, that country. If you look at the statistics, most of these social engineering guys are actually from countries that are not English speaking, or even the ones from English countries where they speak English, they probably don't even speak good English. And so they set up web pages and things like that. And most times they do not take their time to cross-check, look at some of the grammar and the things that they are whatever they're actually sharing to you, or they don't even have anybody to proofread it. When you see these grammatical errors, know that most times that's most likely never going to come from a legitimate company, because all these things would have been checked and corrected even before a message is sent out to you. And there would definitely be inconsistency in sender details. So let's move from there. Now I want to show you this particular email. I believe you can see my screen. Now see this. This email says, dear network user, this email is meant to inform you that your My University network password will expire in 24 hours. Please follow the link below to update your password. Sense of urgency. Now you click on the link, update your, of course, you have to put in your old password and then put in the new password. Now the target is your old password. Very simple. And then you've been compromised. Now look at this other one, right? Okay, so now look at this other one. Greetings, you have a message from the Human Resources Department. Click here to view your message. This is why it's important for you to hover over links whenever you see them before you even click on them in the first place. Now, if you notice, this link you are supposed to click on, where does it take you to? HTTP, SDFX, whatever. HTTP, nobody uses HTTP. No, I mean, hardly would you see websites that use HTTP these days. That's also one of those proof that this website is not secure, and it probably is very dangerous for you to handle in the first place. So how do you defend yourself? How do you defend yourself, or how do you resist social engineering attacks? You need to think critically, right? Always think critically. Pause and, reflect. When confronted with an urgent request, pause. Just, okay, you know what? Okay, sorry, hold on. Now, always pause when confronted with an urgent request. Instead of clicking on a link, just as I showed you, you should make sure that you take a moment to verify the request using a known trusted contact method. That's one thing you can easily do. Just make sure, for example, if a message is coming from your bank, you can as well have somebody in your bank that you can contact to know if indeed whatever is said is really going on. Double check the source. If the message appears to be from your bank, just as I said, or IT department, find their contact information independently, e.g. on their official website, rather than using information provided in this message. I've received an email before where a message on Facebook that was if it's not that I am who I am, there's a very high likelihood that I was going to, the message was well crafted. The fear, the urgency, everything was there. But I just knew that, no, I mean, it looked very, very real. I just went doing some research. All I just did was, let's even forget all the steps we are talking about here for a second. Okay, I went online. I wrote, this is the message I'm receiving. And I saw a forum or different forums discussing about people receiving this kind of message, which seems very, very convincing, which was just enough reason for you to know that, okay, you shouldn't take this action in the first place. So you just need to be careful. Think critically for a moment before you take these decisions, because by the time you actually, fall prey to this kind of things, it might just be too late. Now, another thing you need to do is, okay, so what are these practical defense steps? Just as I said, you should hover over links. If you hovered over this link here in the first place, now you see that, okay, this is a link that you have to be wary about. Use multi-factor authentication. It is very, very key to also use multi-factor authentication, because if, for example, your password was compromised, maybe through a social engineering attack, there's an extra layer of security that can actually still protect your account, that will make you know that, that will make the attacker need to take an extra step. But at that point in time, you already know that your password is compromised. And at that point, what you can do is quickly make sure that you change your password. So multi-factor authentication is something you should never joke with when it comes to your things that are very sensitive to you, your banking apps, your just all the different platforms that mean a lot to you, whether it's your social media accounts and things like that. And always keep your software up to date. For example, if you are clicking on a link that is, sorry, exactly, multi-factor. Okay, great. Wasn't hacked. Exactly. So yes, on WhatsApp, everyone should have multi-factor authentication. I do have it also. I do have not been nobody, but maybe people might have attempted. I can't remember. But even if you attempt it on me, the fact that I have multi-factor authentication in place is going to really help me. You understand? So also keep your software up to date. Now, if, for example, you mistakenly clicked on a URL that is, that is meant to maybe hook you in some kind of way, as long as your software is up to date, software updates is just most times, security patches. Now, there are vulnerabilities that are easily exploited by on softwares that are not up to date. Now, when these vulnerabilities are patched, that means there's a likelihood that there will not be success with the hackers with being able to exploit you in the first place. So if your software is up to date, it also minimizes the chances of you being successfully exploited in whatever means that the hackers are trying to, get to compromise you at all. So now, what's the recap on this? Remember, always look for red flags such as unexpected requests, urgency, poor grammar, and inconsistent details. When you are in doubt, always verify using independent and trusted sources. And, utilize practical defenses like MFA. Sorry, I'm coming. So when in doubt, always verify using independent and trusted sources. Utilize practical defenses like MFA, software updates, and practice through role-playing to build confidence. Now, I want us to do something quickly, right? I want us to demonstrate something. John Akerele, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So let's just do a little exercise. Let's just do a little demonstration, right? So let's carry on. Exactly what we're saying. Yeah, operating system updates. Update your operating system, update your applications, everything. Yeah.
Going. Hello. May I speak with Mr. Chief Amfani, please? This is John calling from the fraud prevention department at your bank.
Okay, hold on, John. Let's make people understand what we are trying to do. Now, in this demonstration, John and I will enact a phone call scenario. John will play the social engineer calling from the bank's fraud prevention department, and I will act as Chief Amfani. That's my name. The target of the call. After the call, I'll break down the conversation and share key lessons that we've learned. So you guys should just listen to the call right now. Yeah.
Going. Hello, may I speak with Chief Amfani, please? This is John calling from the fraud prevention department at your bank.
Hello, this is Chief Amfani speaking. How may I help you?
I'm calling because we have detected some unusual activity on your account. There are transactions that appear suspicious, and we need to verify your identity immediately to prevent any further issues.
John, I'm sorry, but I wasn't expecting this call. Could you please provide your full name, your employee ID, and a direct callback number? I want to verify this request with my bank using the official number I have on record.
Team Fanfani, this is a matter that is very urgent. For security purpose, can you please confirm your account number and your full BVN?
Okay. I appreciate your concern, John. But for my security, I cannot provide any details until I verify your identity. This is standard procedure for me. I will call my bank, don't worry, immediately using their verified number to confirm this matter. Thank you, John. Bye for now, please. I have to attend to other things. Okay, so that's where the call ended, right? So thank you, John Akirele. Now let's break down and analyze this call to highlight the key red flags and the decisions that helped prevent a potential social engineering attack. Now, what happened? John began by stating his name and claimed to be from the fraud prevention department. The red flag here was that although the introduction appears professional, it's important to note that a legitimate bank call should also provide verifiable credentials, maybe an employee ID or a known callback number, and be expected or scheduled. Now, another thing is it created some urgency. The caller, which is John, immediately mentioned that unusual activity had been detected on the account and stressed that the situation was urgent. The use of urgency is a common tactic, which we've already talked about over and over again in this minute, to bypass the target's normal caution procedures. Pressuring a quick response. And what do they do? So that's just where you know that, okay, there's a problem here, because why? He's actually in a hurry. So you cannot really think very quickly to know what decisions to make at that moment. Now, also, he's requesting for sensitive information. John requested sensitive information by asking for the account number and full BVN number. Most times, reputable institutions typically do not ask for full sensitive details over unsolicited phone calls. It's a clear attempt to harvest sensitive data. Most times, you'll be the one calling your bank before they start asking you some of these questions, like what's your account number? Do you understand? And most times, you won't even see them even asking for your BVN. So, you see, Chief Anfani responded by asking for the caller's full name, employee ID, and a direct callback. Scenario might be different from country to country. There might be things you just need to verify. You understand? So the lesson is, it demonstrates that if you are uncertain, you should always ask for verifiable details before sharing any personal information. It shifts the control of the conversation and signals that you are following strict security protocols, staying calm under pressure. So, despite the increased urgency from John, Chief was able to maintain his composure and refused to provide requested sensitive information. So, it's important that you always stay calm and not be rushed. Never be rushed. Yes, it might be that this is true. It might not be true, but the first thing you need to do is always be calm before you provide any information to someone who is calling you randomly like this. So, anyway, that's with the call. This demonstration shows how attackers, how they create urgency and use pressure tactics to obtain sensitive information. You should always be wary of things like this. Always verify before you act, just as I said, and stick to your protocol for making sure that you verify indeed if this call is coming from a legitimate source or from an attacker. Now, let's move to the final part after doing this role play, which is building personal and organizational defense. How do you build a personal and organizational defense? Now, how do you do this? You need to first, one thing you need to first do is, develop personal awareness and resilience. And how do you develop, in the case of individuals, as individuals, I believe some of you are coming from organizations, some are individuals, but we are all individuals anyway before we represent any organization in any way. But one thing is, you need to make sure that you, as individuals, always develop personal awareness and self-resilience. And how can you go about developing personal awareness and resilience? You need to educate yourself. That's number one. Educate yourself. You see, when you continuously learn and you stay informed about the latest social engineering tactics, you follow trusted cybersecurity blogs, for example, newsletters or alerts from reputable organizations, what happens is it helps you stay ahead and helps you understand different tactics, because definitely these guys will always come up with tactics that you do not know. I mean, you are not out there most times trying to attack anyone, and you probably will not, most times you will never know how these things work, except you educate yourself on how they work. Now, some self-education tools, for example, sometimes you might be compromised. I noticed something. I went through a particular tool I use in doing some checks once in a while myself, and I discovered that a sensitive information of mine has actually been leaked through a particular, healthcare organization that was compromised sometime late last year in Nigeria here. I would just rather not disclose that for now, you understand? So, but the point I'm trying to make is sometimes you always need to do checks. Your email address shouldn't be out there easily, or your phone number if you're not disclosing it, or some other sensitive information that is. Now, sites like Have I Been Pwned, for example, would actually help you know whether your email is already out there, or maybe your phone number or some personal data, whether they've been compromised. A few sites like that, but Have I Been Pwned is one of the major popular ones. Now, another thing you need to do is also daily security practices. What kind of passwords do you use? There are people that use the same passwords over and over again on different accounts. Because why? Maybe laziness, right? Sometimes people will use their children's date of birth, their own date of birth. It is very common practice. Password 123, all these these things that any attacker will know that this is what people do on a regular basis. Make sure that and that why it is that when they call, they try to hold you on the call for as long as 5 minutes. Okay, we'll answer that. Just make sure you always use unique passwords for each of your accounts, and consider using reputable password managers. Password managers help you come up with unique passwords, store passwords. It just helps you in order to make sure that, okay, in case your problem is being able to come up with unique passwords, use password managers. They will help you store your password. Just don't keep using the same passwords, because the problem is if one of your accounts is compromised and you're that kind of person who uses the same passwords over and over again on different platforms, your passwords your credentials can be sprayed and used on different platforms. So you are not just only compromised on one platform, you are compromised on several different platforms just because you are using the same password across different platforms. So always make sure that you are using strong passwords, and always make sure they are unique across different platforms. Multi-factor authentication can never be overemphasized. Even if your security is broken or your password is compromised, there's an extra layer of step that an attacker would need to take to be able to, get access into your tool or whatever it is, platform that you hold there, whether it's your social media or your bank app or whatever. Now, you should also periodically check your account activity and review your security settings. Now, I want to ask you guys a question. I mean, because I can see you guys are really engaging. I'm enjoying this, right? How many of you currently use multi-factor authentication or a password manager? If you do, share a thumbs up or drop a quick note in the chat. You do, great, thank you. You do, fine. So yeah, so correct, please. It's easy to feel, yes, great. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and maybe lazy about it. But if you don't use a password manager right now, start using a password manager. It's very, very important. You understand? And use particularly multi-factor authentication is key on any account that is important to you, except it's not important to you. Make sure you use multi-factor authentication. Now, let's speak about how to get what? I use MFA. Somebody asked the question. I'm trying to understand the person's question. Okay, what you can do is, I don't want to talk about any particular one right now. Just go online, password managers, best password managers, something like that in 2025. You see videos, articles, and all of that. You can now choose to select which one you desire to use, and then you proceed with how you can go about it. But there are a few ones like that are quite good and reliable. Okay. Now, so great. Thank you guys. So let's move to the final part of my presentation, implementing organizational defenses. Now I believe we are here talking to individuals. I believe we're also here talking to people from from organizations who either have their businesses or are also trying to do their part in protecting their organizations. Organizations should do their part in implementing organizational defenses against social engineering attacks. Now, one of the things you need to do, first on my list, is establishing cybersecurity policies. All organizations should ensure that they have a clear written policies regarding cybersecurity best practices. This should include protocols for verifying requests, handling sensitive data, and reporting suspicious activity. And also, organizations should, have incident response plans in place. When incidents happen, you probably might not know how to respond to them if you don't have a plan in place, and that can be very, very disastrous. So every organization should have these plans in place. It ensures that in the event of an attack, everyone knows their role and the steps to mitigate against whatever damage has occurred. The next on the line is also training and simulations, right? Sometimes people feel training is a one-off thing, but training is a continuous process. You need to continue to. Of course, teams change, new people come into organizations from day to day. People need to, anything you put on the top of your mind or in the mind of people would always remain in their mind, unlike something you just say once in a while. So organizations need to conduct regular interactive training sessions to keep employees updated on the latest social engineering tactics. Phishing simulations can also be done they should implement periodic phishing simulations to give employees hands-on experience and in identifying and handling suspicious emails and messages that pop up. Because now, if please attend to this question. Sorry, I'm coming. Please attend to this question. Why is it that this kind of emergency calls usually come in what? If you can actually unmute and speak. If you want to speak, you can raise your hand. I only saw up to in, you get. But don't worry, we have a Q&A session, okay? So just hold on. We're almost done. When we get to the Q&A session, all your questions will be attended to. We'll look through the chat. We'll answer your questions. You can also raise your hands and, ask whatever questions. So now, consider a company that recently implemented quarterly phishing simulations, and let's say they observed a significant, they most likely any organization that does that would actually experience improvement in their employees' ability to spot and report suspicious messages, because simulations are just like the real thing. So if you're seeing emails that are tricky, you already know what to do, unlike an organization that doesn't put all these kind of practices in place. Okay. So let's recap. Or before we recap, I want to ask you something. I want to ask you, for those of you that are from representing organizations here, or you have your own organizations, does your company currently run regular security training or phishing simulations? Can somebody just tell me, answer me, in your company where you work, do you run simulations or phishing or security training programs? Okay, Ngwayu Wycliffe. Okay, this is not in Nigerian, right? Right? You're not in Nigerian. I'm sorry, nothing like that. No, but I don't. Okay, fine. Thank you. So very, very key. Even no matter how small your company is, it's very, very important, because you see, it might just be a Facebook page you have. It might just be an Instagram page you've grown to thousands of followers and things like that. And you probably have an employee that is managing your social media. Maybe that's just the only thing you have. Do you want to lose that? No, you don't want to lose it. So if you're not doing it already within your organization, some of your info are there. That's the truth. If you do not, you are definitely going to be a target. Even I myself, consistently, I see people coming to my social media, coming to, you see new accounts. That's another thing you need to be wary for. You just, when you start seeing new accounts, and good enough, Instagram, for example, does it these days. When a new account is following you, they will boldly put new there so that you can be wary. So some of them are coming to see how they can test you. They can, try to attack you, come into your DM, or come and steal your profile. A whole lot of things are happening out there. But for businesses, you need to be very careful, because your social media, for example, might be that's your source of income, or your source of, building your customers and all that. And you really don't want to lose it, even if you think you are just a small organization. So the recap on this, to wrap this section, here are the key takeaways. For individuals, always stay informed. Use strong passwords with multi-factor authentication, and regularly review your security practices. For organizations, develop clear cybersecurity policies, invest in regular training, and run simulations to keep everyone alert. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much. Now we are in the Q&A session. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. So over to you, the host. Or should we, okay, before we move on to this place, quick one. I want to mention, before we take the question and answers, or before I attend to your questions, let me quickly show you something. We are actually starting a penetration testing training program. Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted by what I'm seeing here right now. I'm in the comments, but let me share this. Okay, I believe you can also see our this slide. We have a penetration testing. Hold on 1 second, guys. Hold on, please.
You're mute.
So I think your mic is muted.
For how long has this been happening? For how long? Oh my God.
Since you started.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Penetration testing aspect, yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Oh wow. Like, I've gone so far already. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is we are starting this particular program on the 18th of March, which is next month, and is a 6-week penetration testing program. And it's themed The Art of Intrusion, Master Network and Web Application Penetration Testing in 6 weeks. It's a 6-week training program. And here you'll be able to learn real-world tactics of ethical hackers and pen testers, hands-on labs, expert instructions, and live attack simulations. These are the components of this particular program. So for those who probably don't know what the job of an ethical hacker is or what an ethical hacker does. Now, cyber criminals are the guys who exploit the weaknesses. So if you have weaknesses in your vulnerabilities in your organization's network, in your systems, in your applications or whatever it may be, the attackers, once they are able to spot the cyber criminals, of course, what do they do next? They exploit it. But for ethical hackers, their goal is to make sure they find out that these vulnerabilities exist, if they exist. And when they find out they exist, they're either going to point you out to fix them or they help you fix them. So that's just a brief overview of what ethical hacking is all about. Now, in this program, which is a secret program, we are going to learn how attackers infiltrate networks and exploit vulnerabilities. Advanced reconnaissance, scanning, and enumeration techniques, web application security, post-exploitation tactics, how to write professional penetration testing reports, web application security flaws like SQL injection, and so on. So who is this course for? Aspiring ethical hackers and pen testers. If you want to become an ethical hacker, this is a very, very good starting point for your career. Cybersecurity and IT professionals, red team and blue team members, developers and web security enthusiasts. If you are just a developer, you should also understand how to fix vulnerabilities. Sometimes we have developers who are not really concerned about the security of the codes, and it's very, 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 very vital. I've actually worked with developers that build vulnerable systems that can easily be cracked. So if you're a developer to this, is also good for you. Anyone passionate about cybersecurity as a whole. Now, this program is starting on the 18th. Then we have the physical classes, we have the virtual classes. You can join us physically if you want to attend the classes in our office in Yaba. And you can also join us virtually. It's exactly the same class, everything, the same component. The only thing is if you are in any part of the world, not Nigeria, you can as well just connect online. Exactly the same thing, very seamless. So what you get is 12-week led sessions, instructor-led sessions with live hacking demos, access to private pen testing labs, a structured learning path with beginner to advanced techniques. So anyway, let's leave that. And certificate of completion. So what's the price? If you are paying early enough, which is by the end of this month, 28th, on or before 28th of February, you're going to be paying a very measly amount of 150,000. This is extremely cheap. I mean, go out there, you understand what I'm saying. Like, we legit saw some organization that is doing exactly something like this or even lesser for 1.5 million naira in Lagos here. Right? We're still discussing about it today. But if you've observed us, if you know us in Forward Edge, you know that we are very passionate about cybersecurity. And that's why majorly our focus has been cybersecurity beyond any other thing in the tech space. It's a passion, it's a goal. We've trained people completely for free, even at some point in time. We keep doing it and we'll keep doing more for people. And that's why this is very, very affordable. You understand? Now, the standard price is 200,000 naira. If you're paying any time for this program before the 18th of March, it is 200,000. But make sure if you want to benefit from that discount, the 50,000 naira discount you're paying on by latest February 28th. So that's it, guys, for that. Now, I'm done with the upcoming pen testing bootcamp. If you're interested, you can always reach out to any of us, the admins, in the group, or just however you got into this place, you can as well find a way to contact us to see how you can enroll for the program. Thank you very much. Over to the host. So then we can move on with the Q&A session. I can see 90-something messages. I guess that means there's a whole lot to talk about and a whole lot of questions. So host, over to you. So let's treat the questions. People, you can ask your questions. You can, whatever you're dropping in chats, we'll all respond to them, and you can as well unmute yourself to ask questions.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
So please, we'd like to hear from the guests now. So please ask your questions. So we're opening the floor for the Q&A session.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
It's good evening. Please, you go ahead with your question, sir.
Yeah, before I proceed to my question, my name is Abide Samson, and I want to ask for the link to the Forward Edge, or the link to the information that is shared just now.
Okay.
Please, I would like the speaker to drop the link perhaps here or on the WhatsApp.
Okay, I just dropped
Please,
the
my
link in
question,
that box.
my
Please,
question
people,
goes though, sir.
sorry, please, Mr. Samson, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
want
I
to be
already
brief.
dropped.
Please,
Okay,
thank you, sir. If the social engineer calls and they demand to stay on the call for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So I want to ask, does it mean your informations have been hacked during the conversation, during the call, or it has nothing to do with your information since you refused to provide the information during the conversation? I don't know if you get my question, sir.
okay, yes, I do. So before I attend to that question, please, everyone, kindly just signify or raise up your hand if you're trying to ask a question to assure to mimic any conflict of interest. So just ensure you signify, and I'm going to you can unmute, go ahead to speak. So I want to answer the questions one after the other. So for Mr. Sampson, let me take this question. So for most of the time, they are not actually trying to hack into your phone by just the phone call alone. The reason why most of them want to keep you on the phone call for as long as possible is to try and get as much information as they can. They know that with time, yeah, if as the conversation flows, you may feel like you're not dropping as much information, but as the conversation flows, you're starting to build rapport with you and all of that. And they can now build upon that to try and request more information as the time goes on. So I'm just trying to get it back and forth going with you and see how much information they can extract from that particular phone call. So that's why they're trying to keep the rapport going as long as they can.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. So
Hello, good evening.
good evening.
Yeah, my name is Shola Fumi.
Good evening, Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, please, I have a question and I would appreciate if a solution can be provided to that. So I am a system administrator in my company, and sometimes last year, manager about, I felt like
Sorry, just a minute.
repetitive.
Sorry, I want to. Can everyone else, please, if you're not asking the question correctly, could you please mute yourself?
Can I go ahead now?
Yes, you can.
So sometimes last year, I spoke to one of my management staff in the company that as a system administrator, I feel the need to put my users on their toes because we were running towards the festive period, and I felt like it was the time, a perfect time for the hackers or the attackers to start sending malicious links, phishing emails to people to with juicy offers just to get them to divulge informations that are really, really sensitive. So, but then the challenge that came towards me then was that I could not really come up with something that Mr. Abdul showed us earlier, like a Gmail, a form of I don't know how to put it, but it can be categorized under the training and simulation. So I wanted to create a fake page or a fake email that I can just send to the staffs, like they can click these things just for me to know who did this and who did not, who was security conscious and who was not. So I could not able to do it. So I don't know if there is a way you can help with that. I hope you understand what I am trying to ask.
Yes, I do. Okay, so first of all, for you to be able to even perform this kind of action, you require explicit consent from your organization and from everyone, like all of the stakeholders in your organization, being aware of what is going on, first of all, right? You cannot, if without you doing this without proper authorization, is paramount to you basically being a malicious. There's no difference between what you are being a malicious hacker, right? So consent is quite important before this kind of action can even be carried out. So you require express consent from the management before you can carry out such kind of security testing within your organization. So it's very important that the management is involved and they are aware of this before this exercise can be carried out. And then concerning the exact how-tos, now, for the how-tos, there are different tools and techniques that you could use to do this. But we're not, of course, we don't have time to really go into all of that things. But there are different tools, there are different tools that exist, free open source tools that are freely available that you could use to perform this particular session. But of course, we don't have the time to really go into the how exactly. So I hope I've been, Mr. Adesanya, I hope I've been able to adequately answer your question.
Yeah, I copied that. Thank you.
Hello, good
Very much.
evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
My name is Samuel Ochimana.
Good evening, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you. I have two observations. Sorry, one observation and one question. Please, like you earlier said that a video of this will be dropped on the YouTube page so we could go back over in it. Please, I don't know if you can help us with a link to access that YouTube for this class. That is one. Then two, I think would there be subsequent webinar in regards to proper digestion of these informations? Because pretty enough of us might not be good enough to digest it at once. So I'm trying to see if we could have more classes to see how to, digest this properly.
Okay, yes. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. for those questions. So, answering your first comment, which is the YouTube. So the link to the YouTube video is going to be posted on the webinar group. So once we have it uploaded, so it's going to take us maybe a day or two. So once we have it uploaded on our YouTube channel, the link to that is going to be dropped on the webinar group chat. I hope you remember of that. So we're gonna have it posted on there. And then
Yes,
concerning
yes.
more information about like getting more knowledge and things like that. So yes, we have subsequent webinars coming up. But of course, the theme of our webinars usually change. So this week we're tackling social engineering. For subsequent webinars, we may be tackling different topics. So if you would like more in-depth knowledge, more in-depth understanding of cybersecurity, then I would encourage you to go for one of our cybersecurity courses or boot camps. That's the perfect way to get deeper knowledge into the concept of cybersecurity. Of course, webinars are good for getting just a surface understanding, but if you like more in-depth knowledge, I would encourage you to join one of our cybersecurity programs.
That's okay. It's actually encouraging.
Okay, let me quickly say something before this webinar is over. If you are interested in having your certificate of participation in this webinar, I would need you to indicate your name and your phone number in the group as we speak, right? So that we can get them out, because we are not giving certificate to everybody who is in the webinar group, but to everyone who attended this meeting. So if you're interested, drop your name and your phone number. Yes. Particularly, maybe no, you know what? Drop your names, your full names. Leave the phone number out. Just drop your full names here. If you drop it, then we will send you a form that you are going to fill into the group also, and we'll be able to connect. Be sure that okay, it's this person that actually dropped his name, this person who filled the form. The link is going to be dropped here, but also first drop your name in the group right now. Thank you. Okay, you can carry on.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, so I'll be taking a couple more questions before we wrap up for today. So if you have a question, please, the floor is all yours.
Okay, hello once again. I still remain
Hello,
Samuel
Sam.
Ochimana.
Okay.
Yes, I'm actually a network engineer, and most of what your presentations actually spelled out is what we encounter on a daily basis. Network plus precisely. Now, my question goes thus. Please, is there a possible way where countermeasures of such actually has a platform that has a unique binary codes to link up and
Sorry,
know?
could you please, your network, it went down for me. Could you please repeat the question?
Okay, I said for countermeasures, right?
Okay.
As a social engineer, is there a unique code number that identifies who actually does these acts at all levels of social medias? Can there be any such to enable traces?
Okay, sorry, if I'm getting you right, you're asking if there's any unique numbers that we can use to identify social engineering attackers? Is that what you're asking? Just to be sure.
Yes, very well.
Okay, so there's not really a unique identifier for, of course, most of this time they like to most of these social engineering attackers, they always like to disguise themselves, but there are different ways that we could potentially use to identify them through maybe different things like their IP address and things like that. But of course, your IP address is not it's not always correct most of the time. So most of the time, what they do is they try to disguise themselves, they try to anonymize themselves using things like VPNs, proxies and the likes to try and anonymize themselves. So relying on those alone is not sufficient enough to be able to identify them. So that's one of the key things. They always try to anonymize themselves, try to hide themselves behind the cloak. So there's not really a direct, unique identifier that we can use to get them so straightforward.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll be ready to, I pray chance, then I will really want to enroll in one of the courses. Thank you.
We're very much welcome, Mr. Sam, and we look forward to having you. So we're taking a few more questions before we call it today. So if you have a question, please go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a question. Thank you very much for today's webinar. I really appreciate your intensive, comprehensive teachings. Though I have a question, this question has been coming on the comment sections. It's all about the phishing attack or the social engineering, whereby people call you on the phone, are able to know your bank details, or for instance, know your name. Because I had issues with that from Western Union, where I do transfer money internationally. So I was called. They were calling me on the basis that the person I'm sending the money to is a scammer. Do you understand my point? So, but they are calling the person's exact name. So the question is, how are those guys able to get information of the people we are sending the money to? Because I also answered the question, but I need proper clarity from the professionals. Thank you.
Now, sometimes it's possible that these attackers or these fraudsters, of course, sometimes they don't work. Most of the times they don't work alone. They usually have things like insiders that work at the bank and things like that provide them with some of this information. And of course, for some cases where they don't have as much in depth, sometimes all they call you and the only thing they have is like your name, maybe date of birth, or some things like shallow information like that. It's possible that they could get those information from online sources alone. But sometimes when they have more in-depth knowledge, like for instance, the person that you're transacting with sometimes and things like that, it's usually a telltale sign that they have an insider at the financial institution that you're interacting with, and that's how they're able to get such information.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to be clear.
Very much welcome. So we're taking 2 more questions. We're already okay. It's at 7 p.m. already. So I'll be taking 2 more questions before we call it a day. So if you have a question, please, the floor is all yours. You could drop your question. You could unmute yourself to speak, or you could also drop your question.
Quick one. So I'll be dropping the link to the form for you to fill. Please don't share this with anyone, even if you do, as long as your name is not in this group. We are not going to give you the certificate. So this link, all of you who indicated interest in getting the certificate, please fill the form. We are only going to be able to verify your identity by authenticate you by making sure that, by comparing the names you actually dropped here with what you put into the form. So please make sure you drop your name if you're interested in the certificate, okay? So this is the form here. Copy the link to the form and make sure you fill it. Yes. So, and make sure your name is here before you fill the form. Fill the form, copy the link, fill the form this night, between today and tomorrow, between today and tonight and latest 12 noon tomorrow. Please make sure you fill this form. It's best you do that tonight, okay? And make sure your name is dropped in this group because we are taking note of your names right now. Thank you very much.
Sorry, one more last question, please. How can I identify the difference between ethical hacking and social, what the topic we just discussed? Sorry, thank you.
Okay, so quick and easy one, quick and simple answer. So social engineering is a malicious tactic. They are trying to steal information for you. And ethical hackers, on the other hand, are the good guys, right? So what they try to do is to try to break into your system and figure out how they were able to do that, and then let you know. So basically, it's kind of like saying you're hiring somebody to break into your house and then telling you this is how I was able to get it, so you can fix those entry points That's what ethical hacker does. They are doing it with your permissions, not, of course, not just going behind your back. So they are telling you how you're able to get in so that you can fix it and prevent dangerous hackers from actually getting in.
Okay, thank you.
You're very much welcome.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good
Okay,
evening.
I have a suggestion, something I've come across, and I believe it's important that every one of us knows. So I want to say, please, for no reason should you download any application from your browser. Let's say a pop-up comes up on your browser to say download this application. So yeah, I'm a software engineer, and I built an e-commerce website. So this is a trick that I've seen some hackers do. Okay, now they put the website there, and they give you some ridiculous price. That okay, after 2 minutes, a pop-up just shows that, oh, JavaScript has been disabled on your browser. The version of browser you're currently using cannot work, or the browser is not compatible with this website. So you can download this application to continue shopping. The moment you download that application, you are gone. Like you are gone. So please, for no reason should you download any application from your browser. Thank you.
Thanks for that insight. I really appreciate. It occurs to me often, but I'm very careful not to even go that far. But I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us for this wonderful webinar today. So don't forget, this webinar was brought to you by Forward Edge Consulting Ltd. We really appreciate each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today for this informative and educative webinar. And we hope to see you all at subsequent webinars we are going to be hosting. Thank you very much once again, and we look forward to see you at our next event.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. We
Thank you, sir.
appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. Big kudos to you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
What link on the group? What link has not been sent on the group?
Sir?
Yeah, I don't.